I'm Tony, and today we're going to talk about stitch length. It's something that's in a lot of patterns, whether you're quilting, sewing, whatever you're doing. You may see something that says set your stitch length to this, or something says don't forget about your stitch length. What is stitch length? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at today. So I'm going to show you the different stitch lengths on the machine. We're going to talk about what that means, and then I'm going to show you how to adjust it, and then so we can, learn more about stitch lengths. Before we get into stitch length, I want to point out that everything I'm going to be talking about today is for modern sewing machines. So these are sewing machines that have been created since probably the 80s, 90s, so on. A lot of the older classic machines do a stitch length in inches, which is different than what the modern ones do. So first, what is stitch length? The modern sewing machines, stitch length means how long the stitch is in millimeters. So in this case, this was a stitch length of 5. So let's take a look at the actual stitches. These stitches have a length of 5 millimeters. So let's take a look at a stitch length of 3 and see how that compares to the 5. A stitch length of 3, you're going to have each stitch is 3 millimeters, meaning it's going to be a little bit shorter. You see the one on the right has a shorter stitch length than the left. The left is a stitch length of 5. The one on the right is a stitch length of 3. And then last but not least, one of my favorite stitch lengths for foundation paper piecing, a 1.6. You can even feel how the machine is doing more stitches as it's going along. So let's take a look at what the 1.6 is. There we go. You see that stitch length on the right? You see how it's super, super tiny compared to the ones on the left? That's because I lowered my stitch length. So remember, your stitch length is how many millimeters it is. So how long or how short it is. The smaller the stitch length, the closer together your seams, because the shorter your seams. The larger your stitch length, the longer it is. So what do you use stitch lengths for? Well, there's a couple of different things. You want to use a larger stitch length for basting, for leather work, maybe some top stitching if you want it to look nice. Because if we take a look at it again, you see how on my sewing machine, the larger stitch length is a little bit more nicer looking than that shorter stitch length. The shorter stitch lengths you want to use for things that you need a super, super short stitch. So like foundation paper piecing, where you really want to perforate that paper to tear it away. So if you're not sure which stitch length to use, refer to your pattern, or there's some great sites out there like Threadistry that has a chart that actually shows you what you can and can't, what are the different options for the stitch lengths for the different things that you're using it for. In fact, I've linked that down below if you want to take a look at that article. It's a really, really nice article. So how do you change your stitch length? Now, as you can see, the piecing machine that I use is the Brother CS6000i. It's an older machine. It's actually was just retired for better and more modern designs. But it's a little workhorse. It's a little inexpensive machine. It's a workhorse, and I love it. So when you're adjusting your stitch length, you have one of two options. You have a knob or you have a button. Now on this machine, this knob up here is my upper tension. So I'm going to leave that one alone. I have two options on here. This, of course, is selecting my stitch. The one that looks like it's a little woo all the way down, and yeah, that's the woo is a technical term. This is my stitch width. That is how wide your stitch is. You notice how I have two dots on this one? Because this is a straight stitch. If I do something like a number 4 in this machine is a zigzag stitch, you see how the width automatically is a 3.5? So if I increase it, that means my zigzag is going to go wider. But that's not what we want. We want this one right here. So my default is a 2.5. So you notice if I change this down to a 1.6 and then I change my stitch and go back again, it changes it back to a 2.5. If you have a fancy machine, you can actually save your stitches. You can save your length per your stitch depending upon what you like to use it for. The inexpensive machines like this one, you can't do that. It will always reset. You're always going to have to set it. So don't be frustrated when that happens. So you just go up, and in this case, now my stitch length is a 5, which is the maximum of this machine. Or I can go as small, as a 0.2. Ooh, I kind of want to see what a 0.2 is. That's really, really tiny. I will never probably need that. The shortest stitch length that I like to use is the 1.6, which of course is the foundation paper piecing. And that's stitch length. And that's stitch length. Hopefully you learned something today. Mostly, what are stitch lengths and about them, and, what the measurements are and how to do it. Just stitch lengths. Don't forget to like this video, follow my YouTube, as well as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, my Quite Nerdy Quilters Facebook group. I live stream on Twitch on a regular basis, and sometimes I live stream here on YouTube. So thank you. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.